Thomas. We've been trying to do this for several weeks now, right? Talk to
Yeah,
each other.
yeah. I'm sorry about your cat.
Oh,
That's
thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it was I mean, I guess it was my cat too. It came with my wife when we moved in together, so she's had more of a history. But yeah, she died recently, which was a bummer. But I'm not too fucked up about it at the moment. How are you?
I'm good. It's Friday night, so yeah, all good here.
So obviously you're raging, just hanging out with me on Zoom on Friday evening.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. So.
Um, well, I don't know how this is supposed to go. I know that like I'd love to just talk to you, but I guess this is also supposed to be maybe at least secondarily for other people. So I should ask you some questions or
Yeah,
something.
I've got some notes as well, so hopefully,
Um,
if I can get my notes up on the screen for me, yeah,
but people should just know that you're like probably one of the best or most interesting contemporary writers. We should just get that off, like get that out there initially. I could just swoon over you for an hour if you like.
you're very, very kind, but the feeling's mutual. I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you. Um, well, I don't know. Like, I guess I didn't really know about you, unfortunately, until I published a book with amphetamine sulfate, or at least had agreed to publish a book with amphetamine sulfate. I assume like people who will listen to this may know what that is, but maybe they won't. I don't know. What is our shared connection here?
Yeah, so yeah, we both had books out with Amphetamine Sulphate, which is a press in based in Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
run by Philip Best, a great human being, um, a great thinker, a great musician, writer, one of
Yeah.
the nicest people in the world, I would like to say. Um,
Uh,
although that might ruin his street cred.
yeah, well, he's been absolutely wonderful to me, and it sounds like to you.
Yeah,
I don't know, he has somewhat sordid history according to some people, but I don't know. I feel like he's a good guy. Yeah, well, and then I think the other thing that just seems like a more obvious connection, or like I don't know, you were very active on like the Dennis Cooper boards, right?
yeah,
And are you good friends with him? I know you hung out with him recently, right?
yeah. Dennis is a good friend I've known. I think we first met in like 2006 or 2007. Um, and then yeah, I kind of go over to Paris once or twice a year usually, and see Dennis and Michael Salerno who runs Kiddie Punk, who's
Oh,
also
fuck
one of
yeah.
my best buddies. So he lives over there, so it's always a nice trip to make. Yeah, and again, yeah, Dennis, he writes all these crazy books, but one of the most friendly, supportive, you know,
Yeah.
people in the world. So
Well, maybe we could say that about you. I mean, what is this like genre or shit that we're in? Because I feel like a lot of people call this like transgressive literature, and I think that's like a dumb
yeah,
thing to say anymore. And I think you even brought this up in your most recent book, right?
yeah. I think, I mean, I don't know anyone who could. Whenever anyone actually is happy calling himself like a transgressive writer, the work's usually pretty fucking awful. Um,
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, like I think, and I can see where my work and your work falls into some of that stuff, obviously, but just in terms of the content. But it's. I think if you, when I think of transgressive writing, you think of things that are, the point is to shock and that's
Right.
not what kind of why I write. I don't write to shock anyone.
Well, your stuff, I mean, I don't know. I have to say, like, there's been just in the time that I've been reading you, which is maybe since 2018 or 2019, I feel like I don't know the evolution of it, because it's like always this incredibly pared down thing. For one thing, I have to say thank you, because there's so many fucking books in the world, and like I always know I'll be able to get through one of yours in like an afternoon, and they're also just um well, they're beautifully written. They're in this incredibly minimalist style. They're all just heartbreaking. I was looking for Your Dreams recently. I think I just gave it away to someone, but I have the rest of them sitting around, or at least the ones I know about. I know you've had some stuff out with Kitty Punk that I might not have my hands on, but at least all the Amphetamine Sulphate titles. I don't know. What do you have, like a way, like a way to I don't know, like not pitch these. That sounds like a terrible way, but you know what I mean when you describe your work. Like what is this? Is like
I'm really bad at it. I'm
okay,
really I much prefer talking about other people's work, and I can kind of feel like I can get deeper on their stuff than mine. I guess I always kind of say, people say, I think whenever you tell someone that you're a writer, they say,
right,
"Oh, so what's it? What do you write about, or what's it
right,
about?" And I guess with my things, it's all about, you know, the subject matter isn't kind of what the book's about for me.
sure,
For me, it's all about playing around with language, and it's about um seeing what I can do, how I can make myself feel certain ways with language. Um, and the subject matter of the stuff, just it, that's just. I guess like you kind of wrap it up. I wrap it up with stuff that interests me, just to kind of keep propelling the kind of the narrative, because they're not really plot based books. There's no A to B to C and
fair
problems to
enough.
solve. Yeah.
Well, you have like a, I would say like a very singular style, and I think that's one of the things that draws me to your work. But I'm always interested, because for me, I think when any whenever anyone like talks about my style, and like why do you write this certain way, or like why do you use all this like blank space in between sentences, and it's sort of like it almost feels like that's the way it has to be, or like I don't know how to write a different way. And sometimes I feel like people make it out like some writers, or at least I feel this way, like I'm that other people think seem to think I'm like smarter than I am by like going about it a certain way, whereas if I have all these other choices, do you and I'm curious if you sort of like have to write that way.
Um,
um I mean, I know you can like write a DM to me on Instagram and it's not in that style, but you know what
yeah.
I mean? When you're out to write a book or a piece of work.
Yeah. Um, it's hard to say, I guess, because the stuff that comes out is so, like, the stuff you'll read in the books is pretty radically different from how it starts off looking. Because
Fair
I
enough.
just wrote tons and tons and tons. Um, Most of it is absolute shit. And then I just kind of like chisel away at it until I find bits that I like. So it's like a, you know kind of process of reduction, really, and just um chopping away at it until it feels how I'd like it to. Um, so yeah, I guess I guess, there's a definite style there with the last three books, especially. Um, and that's more to do with the editing than to do with, but like a natural style of writing, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. Okay. I don't know if it's the answer to my question, but I like that.
Yeah,
I
I better warn
also
you. I go off on tangents. It's
what was it? I don't know that much about you in real life. I feel like we've talked, we've DM'd, you've sent me
mm,
some voice messages high
mhm.
out of your fucking mind, which I found very sweet. If I
Yeah.
can say that. Um, I don't know. What do you share with people? I don't know. If I were at a party, I'd be like, "What do you do for a living?" Which is a terrible question. So I don't know. I just feel, I find like I feel like I read your last book, and I don't know, do you consider this stuff like auto fiction? I mean, this has to have some bits of you. I mean, especially when you talk about cruising and maybe your own emotional state, or I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely like I don't think you can write without kind of yourself being in there.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot in the last book, especially. There's a lot of uh, kind of not true because it's fiction, but a lot of real situations that happened, and I changed kind of the details for the book, and
right.
kind of changed it for the writing stuff. But like a lot of the actual, um, yeah, a lot of stuff in there is very quite autobiographical, which was in, and I think with Alone as well, there's definitely a lot of me in there, but very distorted and like blurred out by the editing and
Fair
yeah.
enough. Well, tell me about your relationship to Michael Salerno. I feel like he and in relationship to you have developed also um this really unique like visual language of your books. I think
Yeah.
that's really important these days, in my opinion. And you have this incredibly cohesive sort of imagery, at least with your last several books, right?
Mm.
That I think even before someone is going to open this up and like read it, I think they have maybe sort of a visceral connection to like what you're doing, and it has a lot to do with his design and photography or whatever. What is your relationship to him?
So Michael is he's I feel very lucky to have his work on the
Yeah,
books because I mean he's probably probably my number one kind of visual artist. Uh, our relationship. So I met Michael first. It's going back to like maybe 2006, 2007, and I used to write a blog every day and post poems and short stories and bits of the novel I was working on at the time, and I'd like interview people for it. So I used to interview people like Bruce LaBruce or different bands I liked at the time and stuff. And I'd do something like every single day with this blog. And whenever I wrote a short story, it always just looked really plain. So I'd choose a piece of art to go stick at the top.
yeah.
I'd kind of found Michael's work, and I wrote to him and said, "Yeah, you don't know me, but your work like yeah scares the shit out of me." Like the first time I saw Michael's work, I was you always remember it. You know, the first it's so striking, and you know you think the first time you see it, I was like, you know,
Well,
is
what are
Michael.
you how could we describe this to someone who's not seen this? I should fucking put some photos of your book covers.
Last time I saw it, it was like all these like skulls and these young kids, and like the photos have been burnt and ripped and just really fucked up looking. And like instantly, I kind of felt this. Uh, it scared me, but like I felt a big connection with it. So I wrote to him just saying, "Can I use your picture on my blog to go with this short story?" And he wrote back, and he was like, "Oh, I've been reading your blog." Or so there's already a connection. I was like, ah, which I had no idea about. So we kind of made friends by email, and then we kind of yeah became pretty close friends over the internet. And then we first time we met up was he was living in Australia where he's from. He was still in Melbourne, and we both met in Paris. We went to Paris in 2008 or 2009 to meet each other for the first time. Um, and I think it was my birthday. I think I arrived on my birthday, met Michael, um, and we kind of hung out and we made a pilgrimage to go and see Arthur Rimbaud's grave. We got the train and kind of went there together, and just like in person, just clicked even more. Um, and since then, like he's been, you know, one of my favorite people on the planet, and also the art he makes and the films he makes are just amazing. And he, in terms of our relationship, in terms of publishing and stuff, he first published a novella called Graves that I wrote. He published it as this really cool kind of limited zine
Yeah.
thing. And then he's published poetry books of mine. So he's done Skeleton Costumes, The Night is an Empire, When People Die. And so when my first novel was coming out in 2013, I just said to him, could you do a cover for this as well? And then every book onwards, I always kind of get in touch and say, hey,
So
are you free?
do you ask him, do you give him any direction, or he just comes up with this?
Mostly it's all him, so I can't take any credit. There's been a couple of things with the last few books where I'd suggest things, or and he for a lot of them, for the kiddie punk stuff, he pretty much, because it's his press,
Yeah.
he kind of just makes a cover and that's it, because it's kind of the whole kiddie punk thing is one big kind of overarching project for him, I think.
Right.
With my books, he tends to come up with various ones. I think for the last few books, like he'll send me about like 10 different covers, all completely different, and I'll say
Oh,
which
for
one of
real?
these. Yeah. So and he'll kind of say, which one of these do you think fits the mood? And a lot of the time, I end up picking the one that he thinks is the best as well.
I'm kind of
Yeah,
going to the amphetamine sulfate site right now, just so I remember. The alone one is it's quite, yeah. If people don't, I don't know, if we end up putting this on the internet, I'll probably show a photo.
that's the one I've like had the most kind of, yeah, people people
It's a
notice that
Yeah,
cover.
it's a little like pornographic. Oh, not
Mhm.
really, but it feels like on first glance it feels that way. Do you not agree?
No,
Okay.
it's pornographic. But like, uh, it's fucked up.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Whatever you
Yeah,
want to call that. Um, Personally, I love the color cover. Can't fucking talk. Took forever.
yeah, that's so beautiful.
Such a beautiful image. Do you know if he takes these photos, or are these just like found objects, or what?
Yeah, so it varies again. With Forever, last time I saw him, he actually gifted me the Polaroid, which I've had framed. So it was a Polaroid he took. It's actually this actor Ange, who is he's kind of a regular um, collaborator with Michael with his films. He's the main star in Michael's last film, The Masturbator's Heart,
All right.
and he he sent me a couple of covers that didn't quite fit the mood or didn't quite work, and then he went, right, no, give me a couple of days, I've got an idea, and he took this Polaroid of Ange kind of submerged in the water, like in his apartment in Paris, and yeah, it's just beautiful. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky.
I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Well, the your new book, because I
Oh,
think I mean, I love The Magician. I kind of read that multiple times and kind of recommended that to lots of people
thank
because
you
it
very
kind
much.
of it really got under my skin, and it kind of it's I've been to America, but I've never been to Los Angeles, and but I've got like this kind of real love for like a certain type of the kind of representation of Los Angeles in art,
Right.
and it's kind of a really specific thing, and it kind of fitted into that for me. And just the kind of the paranoia of the book was really kind of fucking heavy, and yeah, I was kind of interested in kind of what the next book would be, um, because I'd read Body to Job as well, uh, beforehand. I like the fact that all three books are really kind of different things. I think like with the prose in the new one in creation, it's there's obviously some stylistic stuff that's similar, I think, in the like the
Right.
novella. But it feels something really new as well. And I wanted to, is that a conscious thing for each one? Have you chosen like I want every book to, is it, or is it just how they've fallen,
Well, creation was initially in my, well, like when I first approached Ben at Apocalypse Party about doing this, I feel like my first thought about it was actually kind of a shithead thing. I was trying to do like a stall tactic. I have this novel that I don't know what to do with right now, and I was like, the novella that begins that book, Creation, this new one that's coming out, was something that came out in an Amphetamine Sulphate like anthology that you're also a part of. It's called Human Rights. And I felt like, well, there's two things going on with that. One is I was just like, I don't know how many people, like, personally, like, I love this anthology, but personally, when I read books, it's much easier for me to go through like a novel or someone's short story collection where it's like all the same voice. Because if the voice changes constantly, I feel like if I hit like a story I don't really like, the chance of me like putting down that anthology is pretty high.
Yeah.
So, I was just like, I like this story, but I don't know if like anyone's reading it or whatever. So I wanted to do something based around this. And I had written all these stories over the past 10 years or so that were loosely about violence and art. But I had asked, I don't even know if I asked, but I have this really good friend named Luca Fisher,
Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
kind of becomes a topic in this book throughout. And in the short, or in the novella called The Most Important Part, which is the beginning of this, and it's the one from this Amphetamine Sulphate anthology. She kind of is this artist who's already dead, and she's having like, it starts out with this retrospective show, and like this character that's maybe loosely based off of me in my early 30s, kind of still being a hustler, but like hating my life and so forth, and trying to find a way out of this. I think the conscious decision then came to be like to make this something else. I don't know. I just felt like I had this pattern that I kept repeating
Mm.
in all my books. And they were so much about sex work or how I felt either during or after. And um, it's been almost maybe 8, 10, how many years? It feels like it's been about a decade since I quit porn. It's not been a decade since I quit sex work altogether, but I have, over the past few years, these very heavy feelings coming up for me about that stuff. And I don't know. I've been really fucked up about it, and I kind of just don't want to keep rehashing that stuff. And I felt like instead of that, I have this really sweet relationship to someone who is this artist friend of mine who we did all this work together over the past 10 years. And I was like, instead of just being like writing another like, oh, poor me story about wanting to kill myself or like being a dumb hooker, which is fine. I mean, I've fleshed that out quite a bit. Maybe maybe I could write about Luca or our relationship. And there's certainly plenty of the first stuff still in there. But yeah, there was an essay I wrote about her 6, 7 years ago, and I just thought to kind of come back to where we're at now and what our lives are like, and just investigate some of that with her. She's just like a really close friend of mine, and I don't know, it's something I haven't really done with my writing before. Kind of give a platform to like showcase somebody else, even though I feel like my style is still so personal or whatever, and I don't think I can totally get away from that, but it's a little bit of effort.
I love the line. Uh, you were talking about just about like kind of the sex work and the porn stuff, kind of really feeling like a quite a fucked up thing now. And it was that line about it feeling like the ocean when you think
Yeah,
about it. And I thought that was really kind of like a really that kind of hit me reading that, the when you think of it, it feels like, this huge kind of thing that could like immerse you or um kind of drown you in it and stuff. So it's kind of this, yeah, if it's
yeah.
you survived something, I guess it must feel like, I don't know.
I just feel like there's so much it weird politics around stuff like that these days, where, and I've participated in this to the utmost degree of being like, this is empowering, or like we should legalize sex work, and like fair enough, like I have nothing against that, but I feel like it's still for most people I've spoken to, and for me experiencing that for close to a decade or maybe slightly more than that, it's not something that typically it's like people are like thriving in later. Aside, I think in the first couple of years, I think it's maybe like super fun, and people certainly get a lot of attention these days when they're like an OnlyFans person or like a porn star, and good for them. They should, and they should be paid well. But I don't know. It's also, yeah, I think lately when I was just thinking about like what's a good sex worker, and it's not like, oh, I get to be like some, I get to experience all this great stuff and like do whatever the fuck I want. It's this sort of like, if you're a great chef at a restaurant, you do what's on the menu. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not like, today I make whatever I want to do. And so I think just constantly being in a state where like someone else is, you're just like, I remember quitting and like not understanding like what turns me on specifically, because I didn't know. It was just always for somebody else. Anyway, I don't want to go on like another fucking poor me tangent. It's just, yeah, it just
No,
felt
no, no.
kind of, yeah.
It's really interesting. I think you said about not knowing what turned you on anymore and stuff, and it kind of, again, that makes me think of the when the guy talks about, like, he in this one story where he talks about masturbating, thinking of empty spaces, and that's like
Right.
one of the ways you can get off is to like not think about the body and not think about physical things. And that got me thinking, and it might be kind of way um off target or way off the mark, but like I was thinking about the body, or the absence of body, um and I wondered if the kind of your friendship with Luca. um I know Luca's recently had like kind of reconstructive surgery and things like that.
Right, right. So she's a
Kind of think
trans
of this, like
woman.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, she, yeah, and it made me think of this kind of this displacement, or this kind of dysmorphia isn't the word I mean, but yeah, that kind of, there's something with you and with her where there's this kind of, you both, for whatever reason, got kind of different experiences with the body that you're in. I don't know if that's something that maybe plays into the friendship, or if I'm totally missing something there. I'm not sure.
No, I think you're right. I think, I wasn't really conscious of a lot of her stuff with gender, and her relationship to her body. I mean, loosely when we, oh shit, it says we only have 10 minutes left. I don't have a
Uh,
pro account, but okay, we'll see if we can wrap it up. But just loosely, like when I met her, she presented as male, and she would mention things every once in a while about her gender dysphoria or whatever, or just things about sexuality or gender. And I would say something, oh, that's interesting. And she started to slowly kind of dress more feminine, or like we'd go to an event and she'd be like in a dress or something, which, like, I don't know, in like an LA art scene didn't seem that bizarre, no matter what your orientation is. But yeah, I think I think the emphasis on the body is a big deal for both of us, and I think continues to be for her. And I don't know where I'm at now with that, to be honest. I've certainly mostly written about that, and yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. I'm kind of stalling
Yeah,
out. Yeah,
no, no, it does. And I kind of just looking at my notes, one of the other things that really jumped out at me in terms of themes from your previous work and something different with the new book is the kind of the idea of transactional relationships, and the characters are all getting something from someone else, whether it's paying for someone's body or someone whose agency, kind of controlling someone else's agency by kind of giving them drugs or giving them somewhere to live. And
right.
uh, it's really interesting that what's really beautiful is the way that you talk about Luca and kind of her friendship with yourself. It's kind of, with friendships, yeah, you get things from each other, but it's a transactional thing that seems a lot more. You're talking about art with each other, and you're talking about um, understanding someone, and it's a different type of. I guess you could call it transactional, but it seems very different to the other stuff, which I think is something it's really quite moving as well with this book. Like
I
having devoting it to someone in that way is really kind of
I appreciate that. I mean, I feel the same way. I think I don't know. I'd read a lot of like dumb like Facebook headlines over the past decade or so about men specifically like aging into a state where friendships are really hard to come by, and most of your relationships are like with people you work with or whatever, or maybe your significant other. And I think Luca, more than most people I know, has made such a concerted effort to kind of keep a community around things like art, etc. And but she's also made the I think the connection recently that that's, maybe you don't even need to have like these weird containers about like making shit constantly, because I think maybe that was what brought us together, because we were working on
yeah,
projects, which I guess feels similar to a relationship I would have with people I actually work with, like for my day job or something. But I think because my day job has kind of taken me away, taken a lot of the time away that I used to have to like fuck off with her and do these insane projects. It's nice to have this sort of new relationship where I don't know, like we went to fucking like Knott's Scary Farm together, which is like a
yeah,
really silly thing. But I know like Dennis Cooper loves haunted houses. For people who don't know, this is like a theme park near Los Angeles, but they during October kind of make it very Halloween centric, and there's just a lot of haunted houses. So, we just did some mushrooms and like walked around, saw these haunted houses, and in a way, it's like I don't know. I don't have lots of relationships like that. In my late 30s, I'm going to be 40 in a couple of years, and I don't know. I find that actually quite sweet to do with somebody.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really like, and it because it's this kind of like platonic friendship.
Right.
It's really, again, I found that really interesting because like my my friends are kind of the you know writing and my friends are the two most important things in my world, kind of thing. And um I'm lucky to have like some, the friends I've got are very close and very kind of, it's something I could relate to. um when you were talking about kind of the stuff with Luca, and yeah, it sounds like she's kind of, whenever I've only interacted with her very kind of briefly just online and stuff, and she was very kind enough to post the picture of my book.
Oh yeah.
um but yeah, she seems so supportive of other people's work, as I know she when I was in Paris earlier in the year, Dennis was talking about the amazing work that she's done for his and Zach Farley's new film, and just like
Right.
raved about what an amazing person she was. It was quite like his
Oh,
hands were
good.
in the air and saying, yeah, she's just incredible. She's a genius. She's the most helpful person in the world. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, so she produced their new movie. I haven't seen it. I know very little about it. Although I guess I talked with Dennis for, I don't know, we had lunch, I and Zach, like maybe last year around this time, before they'd gone into production. And I know Luca was helping with a lot of that. So I'm excited to see it all come together. I don't know if they've shared anything, but I don't know Dennis all that well. He's really fun to hang out with, but we've met once. So
he's
uh,
yeah, he's sending it off to. They've got like a version of it they've kind of put together to send off to film festivals and stuff. Is my
okay.
understanding at the moment. Um, yeah, I'm just kind of
Well,
looking through notes again. Does
hold on.
this?
We have only, I'm sorry, my Zoom, I haven't paid for like the fancy one, so we're like close to the end. Can you say, well, I don't know. What is the fucking end of a discussion like this? You got something coming out soon or working on something? You're always working on something, I know that,
Yeah, so I'm working on something. That's almost.
but
Um, uh, yeah, I'm when it's finished, I'll talk about it. And
all
members
right,
of the
well, fuck
the
it.
next thing. But when's your book out? Because
Yeah.
your book is finished and your book is ready to go. So
Yeah, I just finished up the edits on my end and sent it to Ben at Apocalypse Party like a couple days ago. We're waiting on like, things like you agreed to blurb it. Thank you
yeah.
very much. So you're
Oh,
probably
it's
the few
such a good book.
people. Thank you so
Such
much.
a good.
Um, but it's things like that I don't know, like the interior design still needs to happen. I was very much like we should not put a date on this until it's all finished up on the
And that's
art.
Christopher Norris who's done the cover
Yeah,
design. Amazing.
I fucking love him.
He's so cool. He's great.
He and I apparently I've met him a ton of times and I didn't really know this. And so I have very little memory of it, but he used to work at kink.com, like building cages to put people in. And when I shot up there, I guess we met. I just didn't know who he was. And so years later, when I was sort of introduced to him as a writer and then found out about his music history and so forth, which I feel like he's kind of embarrassed about, but I don't know. I like some of that, like grindy, whatever
Yeah,
you call that music. Yeah.
yeah, he's great.
Yeah. And I don't know, he's an amazing artist. Have you read the new book, The Holy Day?
Yes. Yeah, I wrote a blurb for it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's there's no one else like him, you
No,
know.
no. But there's no one else like you. I mean, so anyway, if this is like a fucking YouTube video, like read Thomas Moore. It's really good.
Yeah, and likewise,
All
get all
right.
the Chris's stuff. Um, I think yeah, it's a really good time at the moment. There's a lot of really really good writers.
Yeah.
Um, I'm reading with El Nash next week, which I'm really looking forward to.
Oh,
Like,
fuck
Ernie
yeah.
amazing.
Okay.
We're reading it in Glasgow next weekend.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Well, congratulations. I don't know. I don't know if this will be out by then. I'm gonna try and do some dumb like graphics on this or something.